Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Lee, and I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. What you're about to watch is one of our Brotherhood Breakfast gatherings at Church on the Move. And this year, we're talking about igniting the fire of God inside of us so that it burns brightly and makes an impact on the world around us. And our hope is that this video will fan that flame in you so that you can make a difference. So let's dive into it.
So I always appreciate anytime that I get to spend time with you guys, because I know Johnny's going to hype me up, and he always does the thing where he talks about like working out. And last night where's Luke? So Luke Owens owns the Hub over in Broken Arrow. That's my guy. Go over there and work out. And last night I was like, man, I've got to work out harder. I got to be at Brotherhood tomorrow, and Johnny's going to say a thing, so I got to make sure and do that. But no, I'm so glad that I get the opportunity to be here. This is the third time that I've got to be here, and you guys still showed up, so that's amazing to me. It was actually funny. Johnny asked me to come speak, in July, and I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. And so, I'm used to like the first Friday in July. So in my mind, it was going to be July 3rd, and I had it in my mind for July 3rd. And Johnny reached out and he said, hey, would you do a quick promo video so we can talk a little bit about, what it is that you're going to be speaking on and what's on your heart? And so I record this video, and it took me 20 times to feel real good about speaking into my phone before I sent it to Johnny. And I sent it over. He was like, man, I love your heart. That sounds great. You said July 3rd. And I said, I did, yeah, that's July 3rd, right? And he's like, no, it's July 10th. So I'm just glad that I made it here today. I'm glad that you guys made it here today. But it was, like I said, it's just always such a blessing to be here. And got some exciting updates to share with you guys, and then something that I think God's been working on my heart on for months at this point. And anytime that I get an opportunity to speak to a group like this, I always try and start this way. I'm humbled by the opportunity to be standing here. I know me. God knows me. I'm a broken, sinful, flawed person. But that's who God uses. And so I stand here delivering a message that I believe that God has put on my heart, not because I have it all figured out, but because there's so much that I have learned that I want to pass on, and there are things that God is doing in my life that I think if he's doing it in a life of like me, if he's doing it in a guy like me, then he's probably doing it in guys all over the room. And so I just want to make sure that I steward what God's given me well, and that I try and communicate it effectively, because I think today is important. And so I just thank you guys for being here and for making this time. The Sherman household, man, it's been a busy, busy time. And if we could go to the slide, there it is. This is what I've experienced here over the last just about 60 days. So my daughter on the left there, Gabby, she just graduated high school, which is pretty awesome, and one of those major milestones in life. There's a lot that goes along with that. My daughter in the center, that's Adelie. I got to walk her down the aisle, which is pretty cool. And I think, being the father of the bride, there's a whole bunch of expectations I think you have for that day. And I think for me, it was just one of those things that's like, yeah, this is the thing we're going to go do. It's going to be special. It's going to be great. I had no idea how impactful that specific day was going to be. But I can tell you, there's a lot leading up to those two events happened within 2 weeks of each other. And my wife and I are still married, right? Which is pretty impressive. Because I can tell you there was a huge amount of stress at the Sherman household around those couple of events. And what was interesting is I think you get to these big moments where you get to a spot where you are launching your kids out into the world. Some of you have already done that. Some of you are moving towards it. And you start to really wrestle with some things. And the thing that I was wrestling with most was, man, have I done enough for them? Have I equipped them? Have I taught them everything I need to teach them? Have I set them up to succeed? Is this going to be a thing where they look back and they go, man, I wish Dad would have done this. I wish Dad would have done that. I wish he would have done this. Or have I done enough for them to get out into the world and get after it? And as I wrestled with that question, I think that's where a lot of today's message came from. As I was wrestling with the question of, did I do enough? Because that puts me right at the center of the equation. Did I do enough? And I can just tell you, I know me, right? I can't do enough. And so if their success out in this world is dependent upon whether or not I did enough, then I've kind of missed it. And so the Holy Spirit was just working on me. He just showing me Gabe, you're just asking the wrong question. Did you do enough? The better question is, when they leave your home and they go out into the world, do they know me? Like that's what God really worked on in my heart. Do they know me? And not do they know me in like, hey, you taught them about some things about me, like they went to church sometimes, they did this thing, but do they know me? Is Jesus Christ somebody who is the central purpose of their life? Do they walk with him? Do they know him? Like, do they know me? Because if you've done that, then you're in a place where you've taken yourself out of the center of the equation, you put Jesus Christ there, and he's got a lot better track record than I have. And so I wrestled with that. Like, did I do enough? Do they know him? And I could step into this camp, this do they know him camp, and I could say, yeah, man, they do. They do know him. They do walk with him. And it's not because I just taught them a bunch of things and I took them to the right church. My pastor's sitting down here. I'm going to give him some credit, but not all, right? Some credit. I mean, we have a great church family. But so much of what our kids see, so much of what, even not just our kids, the generation behind us, like Lee was talking about, they aren't just looking for what you tell them. They're just looking for what you teach them. They are looking at you. They're looking at your life. They're looking at how you live. They are looking at the model that you are supposed to be. Like that's where they're making decisions. So much of the research would tell us, it's incredible actually how much our kids model the behavior that they see from their parents. And so it's interesting. Like I didn't sign up for that. Like there wasn't a day where at the hospital, Adelie was born and they said, okay, are you signing up for this idea that she's gonna watch you throughout your life and she's gonna make a determination on whether or not you believe what you say you believe and that you are who you say that you are? Are you signing up for this idea that she is gonna be looking and studying and seeing you as the man of the household and making a determination on who my dad is, what he believes, what that means to me? Like nobody really told me that. I think if they had told me that in that delivery room or in the nursery, I'd have been like, whoa, bro, hold on. That was not in the fine print at all. But that's exactly what we're called to do. We are called as men, and does not just apply to the dads in the room. This applies to anybody here in this room that has a generation behind them that's looking towards them and at them for direction. So are we the model that God has called us to be? And I'm not talking about, are you perfect? Clearly, that is not, perfection is not the goal. It's unobtainable. But are you living out your faith? Do you know Jesus Christ? Are you living in a way that is consistent to where whenever those that are behind you are looking at you, they can go, man, that is something I want. That is something I want to know more about. And so that's what we're going to spend time today on, is the model. Are you the model? So the first point here, if we go to that next slide, what is it that we're modeling? We model who God is and what it means to be his child. That's a heavy weight. That's a really heavy weight. I don't know if I'd ever really wrestled with that fully. That we model who God is and what it means to be his child. You know, it's amazing to think about what's in a name. You know, we are called, so many of you, raise your hand if your father's in this room. Okay, put your hand down. Raise your hand if you've been fathered in this room. Everybody, raise your hand, please, because you're here, right? It applies to everybody. Not a trick question, right? Pretty straightforward. You're either in that father role or you have been fathered. Those two things I know are true of everybody in this room. Look over here at this first verse here that we have coming up. This is Paul talking to Romans. For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. The Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Rather, the Spirit you received brought about your adoption to sonship, and by him we cry, Abba, Father. It's an awesome, awesome verse. It shows the relationship that we have. You know, this idea of father. Like in the Old Testament, that was almost a foreign idea. The text here that's used to describe the Father was used about 15 times, 20 times in the Old Testament. But then you fast forward to the New Testament, it's almost 250 times, because we got to see Jesus Christ on this earth, walking this out, showing us the relationship between him and his Father. And so as you carry that name, as you are the model in your household, as you are the father, Somebody is looking at you behind you and they are making determinations about how they relate to the Father. They're looking at you and they are seeing, you are setting a tone for how they're going to communicate and connect with their Heavenly Father. The names are the same. And what's interesting, I get a chance to speak and teach, and I was teaching one time because this really means a lot to me. I've had a great father, and he has done amazing things in my life and amazing things for me. And so I was speaking with passion just about how much I can love my Heavenly Father because of what I've seen in my earthly father and how those two things connect. And I was talking, and I saw a couple of people in the crowd, and they were really getting emotional. They were starting to cry and tearing. I'm like tearing up, and I'm like, man, I am crushing it right now. Like, these words are really good. I mean, people are emotional. This is awesome. And afterwards, I got done, and the first lady, she came up to me, and she said, I don't relate with anything that you said. I was like, man, I thought I was up here crushing it. She's like, I didn't have a father. Like, my father left whenever I was like 4. The only thing that I remember about my father was how he yelled at my mother. Like, that's father to me. And you're coming at me and telling me that I'm supposed to relate to this God like he's my father. All that means to me is that he could leave me. And that wrecked me. Like, this idea, this beautiful, incredible picture of the Father sending his Son to earth to die for our sins, and the love and grace and passion and everything that we see in that relationship between Jesus and his Father is something that we're supposed to emulate and experience and enjoy here in earth in that relationship. And yet I have somebody standing in front of me saying, that is a wrecked example for me. It's funny, I was on an airplane. This is how you know these are things you're supposed to say, because I'm always looking for how God is going to show up. And I don't know if any of you guys travel much, but travel is not fun, and the airlines can't seem to figure it out. It's what we pay them to do, and yet they don't do it. And so I was sitting on a plane. I was getting ready to board a plane, and I saw this guy walking up, and he was in a tank top, really buff dude, and he had this probably 7 or 8-year-old girl in tow. And we're getting close to boarding, and he's dragging her, like he is dragging her through the airport. And there have been times where I felt like that with my kids in an airport, right? Where but he is, pick up your feet, we've got to go, we've got to get on this plane. Why are you slowing us down? She's 7, and he is just on her. And of all the people that sit right in front of me in the airplane, guess who it is? It's him and his daughter. And so we get on the plane, the air conditioning's not working, it's super hot, we're on the tarmac in Dallas, like it's just miserable. And she's 7, and she's uncomfortable, and she can't hold still. And the guy is like, sit still, hold still, I don't want to hear it, you're not getting any more snacks, you're not doing, like he is just on her. And at one point, he's like, will you just behave? And she said, can we just be nicer to each other? And in my seat, I wanted to cry. Because in that moment, it wasn't that I was just heartbroken for a father and a daughter. Like when somebody tries to tell her about a heavenly Father that loves her unconditionally, with passion, with grace, with kindness, with forgiveness, she's going to struggle to reconcile those two things. Because that name means something different. That experience is different. And so we are modeling this relationship in a way that directly impacts the connection of the generation behind us to the Father. In that role, we have so much to steward in that role. But that's just one side of the equation. On the flip side of the equation, we are sons of the Father. And what you've learned in that father-son relationship here on earth impacts how you see your Father in ways that might make him unapproachable. You might think that it's performance-based to be in his presence. You might feel like every time you're walking around the Father, you've got to walk on eggshells. You might not be able to understand grace and love and compassion because it wasn't shown to you in that way. But let me just tell you, sons, you have a Father that wants nothing more than to welcome you into a relationship filled with grace and goodness and kindness and provision and protection. That's what you have waiting for you as a son. And so we get the chance to not only model this relationship from the father perspective, but from the son perspective. I wanted my daughters and my now son-in-law, which is still weird to say, I wanted them to see me and my approach to the Father and be like, man, I want that. I want to be in that type of relationship. My dad doesn't just go to church and say some things, but he's in a relationship with the Father. He trusts the Father. And man, if they are seeing that, then and they are seeing me model this from both sides of this equation, I am setting a tone for them to where they can experience a relationship with him like I have, and I want that for them. And I don't just want it for them, I want it for their kids and for everybody else around them. And I don't just want it for my family, I want it for young men that I get to disciple. I want to see it in the older men that I get to follow. I want to watch their example. And I want to see how the Father changes their lives, and I want to grab it and pull it into my life. Dave Jewett is one of my mentors. He does this almost better than anybody. Reminds me every week on Sunday just how good the Father is and how good his love is. Man, it's powerful. This is a heavy weight, but the good thing is you don't have to carry the burden. God's not expecting perfection for you. He's expecting you to depend on him fully so he can set the tone in these areas, so he can use you as his model in these areas. It's a powerful, powerful responsibility that we've been given. Next point, we can move on to the next one. We model when and where purpose is found. When and where purpose is found. When is time, where is a location. When we think about when and where purpose is found, it's the difference between finding purpose in the temporary, in what's happening right now, and finding purpose in the eternal, in what God's doing through you right now for eternity. That's the when side of this equation. The where side of this equation is if we're thinking about the temporary, if that's where we're finding purpose, if that's where we're deriving our value from, then it comes in titles, it comes in jobs, it comes in relationships, it comes in status, it comes in all of those other things. And that is not where purpose is found. Because anytime we tie purpose to something temporary, it can be taken from us in a moment. And I feel like we have a whole lot of men in this world, in the church, that are still looking for purpose in the wrong places. And if we get this out of alignment, if we tie purpose to something temporary that can be taken away from us, that moment is going to happen. It's going to happen. It might be a relationship, it might be a job, it might be a responsibility, it might be a title. It can be taken. And then you're left feeling like, what is my purpose? I've talked to you guys about identity before. That was one of my biggest struggles. And this was at the core of it. But here's the thing. What the people coming behind us, the generation behind us, what they need to see is they need to see us fighting this. Not accepting it, but fighting it. Because guys, we work hard. Everybody in here works hard. They want to provide. They want to be successful. You guys have jobs. You have callings on your life. You have places that you serve. All of those things are good in the temporary. Don't get me wrong. God designed work, and work is good. I want you to have a great job. I want you to be successful. I want all of those things for all of you guys. But there should be a natural tension there. Like for the man of God, there should be a tension there to where we feel like we've got to succeed in these temporary areas, but we have such a pull towards eternity and the things of heaven that, man, there's a question about where do I spend my time and where do I find my value and how do I take what's happening here in the temporary and tie it to eternity? Like there should be a tension, a fight there. And the generation coming behind you should see you fighting it. Like for us in our home, what it looked like, Johnny mentioned the NASA thing, that was a hard decision for us as a family to make, to leave Oklahoma and go to Washington, D.C. On the surface, it looks really good. It's a big job. It's a lot of great stuff. There's accolades and titles, and man, you get to be in the center of power in the United States. Like it seems like it's a no-brainer. But the question was, how much does that take us away from the purpose that God has for us? Or does that move us closer to the purpose that God has for us? And so we didn't just struggle with that, Amanda and I. We brought our kids in and we struggled with that together. Like I wanted them to see me and Amanda on our knees, praying about that decision, fighting through it, not with each other, but fighting through it to get to an outcome that we felt like was God ordained. That's what we wanted them to see in the process. I wanted them to see the fight. I want them to see like, hey, Dad has had a really long week at work, but guess where he's going to be Saturday morning? Serving with other dudes. Guess where he's going to be Sunday morning? Man, teaching at church. Guess where he's going to be Friday morning? Brotherhood. Like I want them to see that fight between what's happening in the temporary, what matters in eternity, and the struggle. That is a good struggle. That is a worthy struggle. It's a good thing. You look at the verse here, next verse here. Since then you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. Guys, in these moments, if we want to live this, if we want purpose to come from when and where it should be, then our hearts and our minds have to be on the same things that are on the heart and mind of God. They have to be on heavenly things, which means that everything we get to experience here has an impact there. And that every job, every service opportunity, every situation and circumstance is not being used just for what's happening right now, but it's being used to make an impact for eternity. That you're given the job, you're given the title, you're given the responsibility, not for here, but for there. And so you are to leverage every opportunity we have for the kingdom. Some of us do a great job at that. Like some of us look at our roles, our businesses, the things that we have, and it is all about bringing God glory in those things. Some of us, we just kind of set God over here, and we maybe include him or involve him from time to time, but it's not central. And so I would ask you to wrestle with that, because that is something we are called to model. And you need people coming behind you, the young men coming behind you, the Grace and Hamptons of the world coming behind, seeing men wrestle with this in the best way. Let's move on to the third point here. We get to model how relationships work. This one, man. My buddy Luke and I, we get chances to go to lunch. We have our favorite Mexican place over there in Broken Arrow. It's not weird, okay? It's our place. We have a table. The servers know us. It's good, okay? It's not weird. And we have deep conversations, okay? And it's great. And Luke is the type of guy where that he will ask you questions that make you just really think. You have somebody like that in your life that's just a deep thinker, and they really challenge you to wrestle with things. And one day I was talking to him about my girls, and this was leading up to graduations and weddings. And he said, man, he has a daughter of his own. He's like, how did you help her move through this process? What were some of the things that you were doing to try and ensure that she was successful? And it's one of those things where I think I had intent and intention, but I wasn't real sure if I'd really put something on it specifically to say this was the thing. And in that moment, man, I knew exactly what the thing was. Like I wanted my daughters to see me and to measure the men that were going to come into their life by who I was and who I am. I wanted to raise them and parent them in a way to where I set a tone and an expectation for a future relationship with a man that was healthy and awesome. And so I wanted to instill that, and I wanted to show them the love and grace and compassion that they deserve and that they should expect from any man that they let into their life. And I frankly wanted them to measure anybody they brought through my front door against me. Not because I'm awesome, but because I wanted to set a high bar. You know, we talk about getting wife beaters and shotguns from eating boys that come to the house, you girl dads. I have two brothers. They're awesome. They've got a lot of guns. I've got some. And so we had that conversation. But the great thing is I taught my girls how to hunt. Like I didn't have to worry about whether or not they were going to protect. My girls can kill deer and ducks and boys, right? Like they could do all of it. So I was never worried about that part, right? I just wanted to know and have a confidence in that if they felt like a guy in their life was worth coming through my front door, that I had set an expectation and that I didn't have to worry about that guy as much as, families had to worry about me growing up. I didn't have to worry about that guy because I'd instilled what it meant and what my girls wanted in a relationship by just taking care of them. And man, I have a son-in-law that is incredible. Not because I am awesome, but because God worked through me to show some things to my daughters that they then wanted in their life. I wanted them to see the type of marriage that they wanted to eventually have. In this verse here where we talk about, it's a very familiar verse, right? Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. I wanted them to see sacrificial love in my relationship with my wife and think that is an awesome thing, that I want that. But it's not just that relationship with a spouse that I wanted them to see. What family? Man, those of you that aren't married in this room, like this applies to you in just as powerful of a way. Because you are a part of a family unit and you get an opportunity to set the tone for what it means to be a part of and to be engaged in your family. Outside of a husband and wife relationship. Matt Ryden is one of my dear friends and business partners at the Artemis Group, and his family does family at a level that is incredible. Every weekend, I get to sit down on Monday morning for 20 minutes and hear Matt tell me about the meat that they smoked, the food that they had, the experiences they had on the lake, the time that they were together, mom, dad, brothers, nieces, nephews, everybody together. They set a tone for family. They model family in a way that his nephews and nieces are going to want for themselves. That is awesome. Like he is showing them how this family relationship should work. I know that's not true for everybody. I know there is drama in families all the time. I know there is brokenness in families all the time. We can serve as catalysts for setting the tone for what families should look like. And we can model that in a way that is so attractive that those coming behind us want it. I have a buddy in Houston who has young men reach out to him all the time and say, "Can I just come sit down at your house and have dinner with you and your wife? I want to know what it is you guys are doing." Like, how awesome is that? Like, how great of a question is that? Can I come sit down at your table and hear what you're doing to have a family like you have? Man, we get the chance to model that. The last part of relationships that we get to model is community. Community, where to find it and what it should mean. Like talking about Love Day, man, that is such a cool idea and such a great way to get out and serve. And I'm going to tell you, that's the type of community that is generational, that is impactful. Whenever we get outside of community, just meaning we're going to get together with a bunch of dudes and go watch a game or hang out and have a beer or whatever it is, if that is community, if we're if we're stopping at that for community, then we are leaving so much on the table. Because I have a group of guys down here, Clinton Craddock right here. Clinton is, Clinton, you're in your 50s now? I'm kidding, right? Clinton's he's in his 70s. Clinton outworks guys in his 40s, 30s, 20s all the time. The guy is just driven by service. He is at the center of community in our church. He is a driver of community in our church. And there is something to be said about serving shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of dudes to go serve people. And that's just one part of community. The other part is depth of relationship and community, where, man, having people over to your house when Christ is the center and showing the generation coming behind that this is what real biblical community looks like in our homes, in our lives, and it's a priority. Like, these are relationships that we get to model for the generation coming behind that we want them to emulate and own. If we go to this verse, the next slide here, I'll wrap up on this last point. I know we're down to 6 minutes, so I've got, as always, 35 minutes of time and 55 minutes of content. So I'm going to hit this last one, and we'll move through it pretty quick. But this one's heavy, and it's important. So we get to model the why of life's challenges. The thing is, what I know about every guy in this room is that you are experiencing a challenge today. You've come out of a challenge or you're heading towards one. And that those challenges in and of themselves can seem purposeless. They can seem challenging, difficult, hard. And we get the opportunity to take life's most difficult circumstances and put a why in the middle of them and model that to everyone that's watching. I had the opportunity, you guys were so gracious to me the last time I was here. My cousin Nathan battling cancer. And at the very end, I said, Lee, could I just be selfish for a minute? And I got Nathan on the phone, and I had 400 plus guys stand up and pray for Nathan. He's my age. It's like a 7th battle with cancer. And over this last year, we have been walking this out. I'll never forget Thanksgiving last year. We're in my living room. We got 25 people in the tightest circle you could ever have, praying and crying and believing that God was going to do a miracle in Nathan's life. But Nathan wasn't sitting at home feeling sorry for himself. That's just not who he is. Like, he looked at every circumstance, every situation, every treatment, even going and spending hours sitting in an ER while he's waiting for a bed on the cancer treatment floor, brightening people's day, bringing hope, bringing life to people. And I look at the pictures of him over that last year, just, man, healthy, not healthy. Watching that happen. And yet seeing him carry the why through this situation. The why for him is that so others may know Jesus Christ. So that his kids don't see their dad and feel like we've been cheated. And why is God angry with us? But they see their dad and they think, man, dad is finding purpose and hope. And he's encouraging people in a time where he can hardly sit up. Like, just an incredible like story, an example of carrying a meaningful why through the middle of life's challenges. And I get to report to you today, man, that he is in remission today, which is incredible. This is just Nate, if you knew him. He got this giant tumor right here on his neck. And first time I started to see it, he was like, yeah, hey man, this is the problem I need you praying about. I'm like, it's cancer. Yeah, yeah, I know, I can tell. Him and his kids named it. Like, they named the tumor Lenny. I don't know why Lenny, but they named it. And they were just really, really pumped when Lenny went away. But that's taking something that is not good and turning it to good. Turning it to something that can be impactful. This last verse I'm going to leave you with. Therefore, we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away. Yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is seen, or what is unseen, is eternal. That's the perspective it takes to find a why in the middle of life's challenges and to carry that forward, to model that well. So man, let me just wrap up this way. I recognize my failures as I go through this. Like, I see the areas where I've dropped the ball and I see the areas where I've succeeded. And I want you to understand that I get that that's probably where a lot of you guys are as well. And frankly, I hope it is. I hope it's not just me that looks at those areas that God has given me to model certain things that are so critically important and me seeing myself fall short. And here's what I want to tell you. If you think for a minute that you've screwed this up so bad that God can't bring healing and repair and grace into your life, you're wrong. Because maybe there are areas in your life where you haven't modeled this well. But guess what? God is graceful. He is loving. He can step into any broken situation, any sin, any challenge, any difficulty, and he can bring healing. He can restore you. He can restore relationships. He can bring purpose in ways that you have not experienced today if you will let him. Invite him into the areas where there is brokenness. Invite him into the areas where there is healing. Invite him into the areas where you feel like you might have missed it here. Because he wants to do a work specifically in those areas. And maybe there are areas where you didn't model things like I talked about. But now you get a chance to model different things. You get to model forgiveness. You get to model grace. You get to get rid of bitterness and hurt and worry, fear, and invite God into situations to do things in ways to where on the other side of him working and while he's working in your life, you can model what it looks like to be drawn to him in such a way that others want the same. And man, that is powerful. And that is impactful. And that is the God that we serve. You don't just get one chance, and if you get it right, you get it. And if not, you've screwed it up for eternity. That's just not it. You get a chance to bring God into these situations and let him bring healing. If you don't know Jesus Christ today, if you don't know the healing that can come from a relationship with the Father as his child, man, I want that for you today. And I want you to understand the depths of his love. And I want you to live that out in such a way that others want it too. God, that's the calling that we have on our life. So guys, I'm going to bring Pastor Lee up here to kind of close this out. But I just want you to know I am so humbled and so honored to have the opportunity to stand in front of you. And if there is anything that I can do to help you in understanding this in a better way, man, I'm all about it. Okay? So thank you guys.
Wow.